Alright, everybody, I do apologize. I am a couple days late on some of these cards here. That is because I was casting over the weekend the IQ qualifier series, which you should see those videos start to pop up either today or tomorrow as far as the Swiss rounds are concerned. So, pretty excited that I got to be able to cast that with NOLA Gold. But now we have even more card reveals. So, pretty exciting stuff. We actually got a lot of Demacia and Noxus revealed over the last couple of days. But at first, want to go over, we had a couple PNZ cards and a couple Ionia cards as well. Lots of cool stuff. Pseudo deny type card. Again, being real, we had Bastion. Now we got another card. This is, things are heating up a little bit here. So we'll do Noxus and Demacia last. Demacia gives me hope for Shyvana. But as always, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works. Today we are going over and catching up on the last couple of days of reviews before hopefully a champion is revealed today, and I'm hoping it's Shyvana, baby. Alright, so we're going to get started here with some of the Ionia cards. So first up, we have Trevor Snoozebottom. Love the name, as per usual. This is a 3-mana 0/3 support, create an attacking Mumble Sprite with my supported allies stats, I should say. So a Mumble Sprite is a 3-mana elusive ephemeral 1/1. So this is interesting because it's not just an ephemeral copy. It's an elusive ephemeral copy. So this, I think, is a big boost to some elusive decks out there. It's going to be super interesting to see if there's maybe some sort of, I don't know, Silent Shadow Seer, anybody? The only other ephemeral elusive unit that I can think of. Maybe this could be in some sort of, elusive ephemeral deck strategy. In general, I'm hoping that this kind of gives ephemeral decks a buff, just from the get, just because Hecarim hasn't really seen a whole lot of play. Ephemeral, since its release, hasn't really been that good of a deck. Everybody thought Shark Chariot was like, oh man, this is going to be great in like an ephemeral aggro deck. Not so much. Shark Chariot, it's pretty ass, not going to lie. We haven't really seen it much. So, very exciting to see this card and see what kind of combos could come out with this. And some sort of Silent Shadow Seer deck could be coming. And for the second Ionia card, wow. Woo! Ho, ho, ho. All right. Listen. We got NOPEIFY. And this card, let me just tell, all right, this is basically a cheaper Deny, because it does cost 2 mana. It is fast speed, just like Deny. So it's half the price of Deny, but it only stops a fast or slow speed spell that costs 3 or less. But with that said, there are a ton of spells that cost 3 or less that this will help to stop. I'm actually going to throw up this graphic here real quick for you guys to take a look at that I grabbed from Santiago's Twitter. I'm going to go ahead and link that in the description below if you guys want to check him out. He always has all the good tournament action stuff going on from week to week as well. But you can see here all of these cards that it would be able to essentially deny. Actually not sure about Thermo Beam. If the Thermo Beam costs more than 3, like if you pay 7 for the Thermo Beam, is it registering as a 0 base cost spell? I don't know. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to NOPEIFY it if it costs more than 3. But anyways, you got a lot of good cards, and you can see here in the graphic as well, it looks like he kind of highlighted some of the ones that are actually played more often, ones that you would actually want to deny, or you want to go ahead and NOPEIFY here. Although I will say Vile Feast is not highlighted there. I do think Vile Feast would be a pretty good one to NOPEIFY as well. As well as Mist Call. I mean, Mist Call is on here. We see that a lot in deep decks. And even Death's Mark, if ephemeral, does get good. But you have things like Ravenous Flock. You have things like Retreat, Mystic Shot, Make It Rain, Culling Strike, Single Combat, huge. Steel Tempest, huge. Unspeakable Horror is everywhere now. Glimpse Beyond. That's a huge deny on Glimpse Beyond. You deny a person drawing 2. Relentless Pursuit, that could be game-changing, denying a Relentless Pursuit. So, and it always felt bad playing Deny on something like Single Combat because you feel like you have to play the Deny on Single Combat because Single Combat is such a good card and it's going to change the game for your opponent. So you're like, well, shit, I guess I have to deny this. But now you have an option to spend a little less mana because it never felt good spending more mana on the Deny than on the spell you're denying. So love to see this card. Very excited to get multiple versions of Deny in the game. All right, so on to P and Z. We have a landmark, but before we get to the landmark, we have a Poro. That's right, a brand new Poro, baby. Patched POROBOT, one of the few non-1-cost Poros. So every region has gotten a 1-cost Poro, but now we have the first 2-cost Poro card, and it's for P and Z. While it's in hand, it has a random keyword that changes each round. And when it's summoned, it gets that keyword. So this is interesting. It could get elusive. And a 2-cost 2/3 elusive is actually very good. You know, we have that in Golden Narwhal, but it comes with the vulnerable stat as well. So this would actually be better than that. The reason why Golden Narwhal has vulnerable, because 2/3 would be overstatted for an elusive as a 2-cost. So you could get some pretty neat keywords on this. A 2/3 with tough is also a very good keyword. Some bad ones like ephemeral or vulnerable could, I imagine, also pop up on here as well. But you can wait. You know, it's not like it's just happening once and you have to, you know, go with that random effect. So this isn't necessarily RNG in my mind. It is a little bit, you know, as to whether or not you get this card out as early as you can, because obviously getting the right keyword earlier on, this will make a larger impact with it being a lower cost unit. But you can wait. You can wait and hold out until you get the right keyword. So I do like this. I think it's a improvement for Poro decks if they do become a thing, and love to see a new Poro. The landmark. I am not going to lie. I hate this card. I hate this card. I hate that they have so many landmarks right now that are RNG heavy. And this one just feels really bad. Bad for the game. Bad in general. I just don't like it. So it's a 5-cost landmark. Round start, you discard your hand, create 3 random cards in hand, and grant them fleeting. I mean, like, if you're playing a discard aggro deck, maybe this does something cool for you, but you have no clue what 3 cards you're going to get. And on top of that, they're all going to be fleeting, so it's not like you can save them and use them on another turn. You could just get 3 duds. You could get 3 completely useless cards, or even 3 cards that cost a high amount that you can't even play. So, I think that's terrible to put a card like this in the game, because that's like entirely RNG. Okay, let's just discard my whole hand and give me all random cards. Like, no thank you. And B, who the hell's going to want to do that? Even in discard aggro, this doesn't feel good. So, I don't know, man. I hate this. I think it's terrible. I think it's the worst. I think this is the worst card revealed so far. I'm just throwing that out there. And I hope to God this does not see a lot of play. All right, on to Noxus. We have 3 Noxus cards and 4 Demacia cards. Really hoping that the extra Demacia cards means that a Demacia champion will be revealed. Shyvana. But anyways, Sharp Sight. 2-mana burst speed spell. Give an ally +2/+2, and I can block units with elusive this round. I like this because the fact it's worded very specifically so that it can only be blocking elusive units and not just grant a unit elusive, which would also allow it to block elusives, obviously, because that means it can't be used on the like as aggression, right? You can't just give a unit +2/+2 and go face with it, because that would actually be quite broken. This card would be very, very broken. Whereas +2/+2 for just the round, I like. It's pretty good. It's just like something like Radiant Strike. That's in Demacia. It's +1/+1 for the round. It's 1-mana burst speed. This is 2-mana burst speed. You get an additional +1/+1. The fact that it also allows you to block elusives just adds a little bit of a twist to, you know, with Noxus anyways. Noxus doesn't have, from what I see, a whole lot of elusive blockers or elusive units that can block. So it does kind of shore up a weakness that Noxus might have. But with that said, I think this is much better than Radiant Strike for that reason. So this kind of, I don't know if this kind of power creeps on Radiant Strike a little bit. Maybe Radiant Strike needs something like also give a unit quick attack. I don't know. I don't know, but it is good. I love this card. I think it's balanced. I think it's great. Nice. All right, and before we get to the landmark, we have something that has to do with landmarks, and that is Scorched Earth. Love this card. Kill a damaged unit or destroy a landmark. So the easy comparison is Noxian Guillotine, which is also 3 mana, but you can continue to play, you know, fleeting copies of Noxian Guillotine on other damaged units. So basically the trade-off on getting those additional, you know, instances of casting Guillotine with this card is you can destroy a landmark if you'd like. And I love that. I love that. It gives you, now you have a choice. You either play Noctine Guillotine because it synergizes better with your deck, you're doing more damage, AoE damage maybe, to multiple units on the board, or you play Scorched Earth because you're more worried about landmarks. You know, you want to tech against landmarks a little bit more. So this is options. It puts both cards on the table as, you know, actually good, merited options in any Noxus deck, no matter what your strategy is, and it depends on the meta as to what you're going to put in your deck, and I love cards like that. So, awesome card. Love it. All right, we have a Noxus landmark. This one I love. This one I love. I think it might be a little broken. I think they might need to increase the cost a little bit. I'm just saying. That's just my opinion. Nox Crya Arena. Have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right or not. Round end, your strongest ally and the weakest enemy strike each other. I think that's really, really good. I think it's incredible. If this were in Demacia, this would be entirely busted. Like, there's no way they would release this card. It's a little bit better in Noxus, but Noxus does have combat tricks as well. So I still think this is a little bit busted. I do think they'll need to increase this cost on this card because, I mean, maybe, I will say, with all these landmarks, I think everybody collectively might be undervaluing the tempo loss that you get when you're playing these, because when you play this landmark, sure, you're going to get it every turn, but it is a 5 mana tempo loss and it's really getting you, I guess, like a single combat type effect. And it's a little bit worse than a single combat effect because you don't have full control over who's attacking who. So it's really like you're wasting 3 mana at that point, and it wouldn't really recoup that mana loss until the end of your next attack turn, or your basically 3 turns total, right? So I don't know if that is really enough for this card to be balanced just on the merit of, you know, mana tempo loss, but I still think this is going to get increased maybe to 6 or something, because this is great. This is great. I think this opens up a lot of ideas for Noxus decks too. This puts Noxus 100% back on the table. All right, we have ourselves some Dragon support and some Demacia stuff. This is pretty cool, but before we get into the Dragon stuff, we have Stony Suppressor, which is a 2-cost 1/3. All spells cost 1 more. So this is interesting because I like the idea behind this card, and I think when you see a lot of Demacia decks, generally speaking, they don't play a lot of spells. They're more unit-centric, unit-focused decks. So this saying all spells cost 1 more, meaning that your spells also cost 1 more as well, wouldn't really affect you as much. And I do think that even if you are playing something maybe like 3 single combat, 3 concerted strike, your spells are more impactful than your opponent's spells, generally speaking. Those combat tricks are super impactful. So even spending the 1 more mana, as long as this lives and your opponent is also having to spend 1 more mana, I think is pretty good. And the stat line is sticky. For Demacia, having 3 health is big because this will stick around. It will probably get buffed as well. You know, you could argue it's a 1/3 and your spells also cost 1 more, so it's really like it's a 1/2 for 2 if you're kind of trying to even out the stats and figure out if the 2 mana is worth it. But again, I think what's happening here is this card synergizes so well with Demacia that all spells costing 1 more is actually a pretty big buff, and extra health in Demacia is also, I think, more valuable, not just in the game in general, which I do think it is, but it's even more valuable to a region like Demacia. All right, we have ourselves some dragon stuff. So let's start with a doozy of a dragon. Holy crap, is this guy big, and he is bad. All right, 7-cost dragon, Stalking Broodmother, Fury Scout 6/6. Wow. I mean, when you look at something like Genevieve, which I don't want to say you can compare Challenger to Fury, but I think they're, relatively speaking, on the same strength level. I mean, when you compare it to something like Genevieve, who costs 6, she's a 5/5 for 6 with Challenger and Scout. I think this is better because you're at that 6 health threshold, which means you can trade with 5-cost units. I mean, this doesn't have Challenger, so you can't pick them off, but man, having Scout, especially if you're playing some sort of Dragon ramp deck, which we have already seen in the past with something like Dragon's Clutch and just Mobilize, reducing cost of dragons, you get this out early. This is a big daddy on field, and depending on what Shyvana does, this could be a staple in Dragon decks. I am feeling Dragon ramp being a thing. All right, next up for dragons, we got Dragon Guard Lieutenant. So this is a 2-cost 3/2. pretty good stat line in general. This is Demacia, so again, having the extra attack, a little less useful than the health, but still, nonetheless, pretty good. And unit stats in Demacia are just good in general. When it's summoned, if you behold a dragon, grant it Challenger. Okay, a 3-2 with Challenger, pretty nice, not gonna lie. When you have something like Laurent Protege, which is 6 stats total as a 3-drop, that always has Challenger, this is really only getting 1 less worth of stats when everything is said and done for the potential to get Challenger. Generally, you're going to get 2 less worth of stats for 1 cost less, so I'd expect this to be like, a 2-2 with Challenger. The extra attack, I think, kind of puts it on a competitive level. The problem is when you do look at something like Laurent Protege, which has the extra health, Challenger units, you want the extra health, especially in Demacia, because you want it to stick around on board. So this seems more of like a card that will be chosen as a tech choice in a deck depending on the format. If there's some sort of early 3 health unit that starts coming out that decks are playing, that this is going to want to target with that Challenger effect, we might see this in Dragon decks. We might just see it in Dragon decks too, though, because there's not a whole lot of 2-drop Dragon stuff. So overall, this is okay. I'm not crazy about it, but it's a good card. It's good. And speaking of not a lot of 2-drops for Dragon, so here is another one that I think would be played, in my opinion, more so than the Dragon Guard Lieutenant, and that is Egghead Researcher. When this is summoned, create a random dragon follower in hand. And as of now, the random dragon followers all look pretty damn good. They are all big dragons. I'm pretty sure there's nothing less than 4. I'm pretty sure there's nothing less than a 4 cost. And they all have Fury, they all have good effects, they all have good stats, so I think this is going to be the 2-drop for Dragon decks. Not sure if the Lieutenant is going to be an auto include, just as to round out the 6 total 2-drops. I feel like there'll be a different 2-drop that you can include in there to round this out, but this right here, this is going to provide a great early game for a Dragon deck, and I 100% think that Dragon decks with something like Mobilize, they will be competitive, especially if Shyvana's even just okay. Whew, I cannot wait for Dragons. And that's it. That is all the cards getting us caught up. You guys should expect to see another video just a little bit later today when the other reveal comes out. It'll be less cards because I'll actually be caught up. And hopefully it's Shyvana. So fingers crossed. But as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. And peace out.